I'm Anthony Arvin. Welcome to my studio. I thought for today I would do part B of the video where I discussed being right brain, left brain. And this part isn't so much the mechanical of it as it is the manifestation of being very right-brained or left-brained. And the reason I'm doing this is it applies not just to art, but it applies to even business. There are companies who very much seek out creative types. They need creative types to keep fresh new ideas and new products and things coming. Even engineering firms and things need people who can come up with fresh new approaches to solving problems. So they actually seek out right-brained style people. But unfortunately, they're being managed and hired by left-brainers. Left-brained people are the most methodical, they're the most disciplined, they're the most driven. Management tends to be made up of highly left-brained people, and so do CEOs. The problem is when they need a right-brained person, they will look for and hire people who have those creative types of skills, but then they put them in a left-brain environment. So if you're hiring creative types, you need to give them an environment that allows them to get right-brained and stay there. And that's just not compatible with most people's idea of how things work. I was actually the vice president of a computer manufacturer in India, and they desperately needed creative types, but they put them all in the same space as they did left-brained people. There was noise, there was telephones ringing, there were people constantly interrupting. There was no way a right-brained person could get off into that creative state and maintain it because things kept pulling them back into the left-brain mode. And I've even heard of executives scolding creative types, even where they had their own office. But they would walk by the office and they would see this right-brained person staring out the window and scold them or reprimand them rather than leave them alone, because it's when they're staring out that window that the right brain is engaged and they're creatively seeking solutions. And so understanding the right brain, left brain isn't just about art. It's about learning to manage people and using them each in their own strength. Another thing that was interesting about the right brain and left brain, and I alluded to it in the earlier video, and that was that right-brainers are considered sometimes very flighty, unreliable, and even weird sometimes. And that's an absolute reality. When you're very right-brained, you aren't, number one, aware of time, because time is not a function that the right brain even has the capacity to do. So you would miss a lot of deadlines. I personally have to set a lot of alarms to snap me out of it, bring me back, to let me know, okay, there's something I need to do. If you go to my cell phone at any one time, you'll see between 4 and 8 alarms at different times in the day, because that's telling me, okay, you need to stop, check your phone, and see what it is that you need to do right now. And that is because I'm just so right-brained that I would be completely irresponsible and just let obligations go undone without even knowing I was doing that. But it's not just the unreliability that's an issue with right-brainers. There's also the blurring of the line between reality and the dream world. You can get really weird, and it's just when you spend so much time in the dream state, in that right side of the brain, that kind of becomes the default state. But it's a non-critical state. It doesn't stop and analyze the reality of things quite frequently. I remember I woke up one day. My wife's family has a ranch in New Mexico, And I had a job that I needed to do down there. I worked down there for a whole year by myself in the ranch house. And I was doing art, sometimes 14 hours a day, just day in and day out. And so I was exceedingly right-brained. Didn't have people there to bring me back into the left-brain state. Sometimes for 3 or 4 days, I wouldn't even see anybody else. And so one morning, I woke up and I was grieving because I had with me one of my daughter's dogs. And he kind of became my shop dog. And when I went to New Mexico, he went with me to New Mexico just to keep me from being completely alone. And so it was just the two of us. And I enjoyed having the dog. I enjoyed taking him out in the country because he was a completely city dog. And he was just a good companion for where I was and what I was doing. Well, I dreamed one night that he died. And so the next morning when I got up, I was mourning all day long that this dog had died. And he was in the yard. The poor thing, I hadn't even fed him because I thought he was dead. And so you can lose touch with reality if you spend too much time right brain and just get weird. And I remember Belinda's uncle stopped by that day. And I was telling him about, how sad I was that I lost my dog. And he's looking out the window and looking at me and thinking, this dude's lost it. He's nuts. And I had. So I took a few days off and I went to town and did some shopping and ate and got plugged back into humans again because I was becoming really strange. And it wasn't, it's not a trance or anything. It's just, when you spend that much time daydreaming, that state becomes the normal, as opposed to we're used to people being left-brained as a normal state. So, and you have to learn to manage when you are extremely right-brained, or if you live with or work with somebody who's extremely right-brained, instead of condemning it and losing the benefits of that, just learn to recognize it and compensate, help them compensate. Quite frequently, I have to tell Belinda, don't forget, I wake up in a new world every day. And just because something was important to us last night doesn't mean that it'll carry over and that I'll remember that tomorrow. Once you make me aware of it, yes, I can remember the conversations and do what needs to be done. But because I'm right-brained, I have a lot of abilities, especially in creative endeavors, that are uncommon. But I also have very specific tendencies that if we didn't compensate for them, we would have a lot of problems. And things like forgetting to pick up the kids at school kind of problems. We no longer have school-age children, but you get the idea. The long and the short of it is the right side and left side of the brain are a fascinating study. And you'll be able to, while you're watching this, probably even think of somebody who has these strong traits one way or the other. And so if you've got a right-brainer in your life, consider yourself lucky and blessed, but also recognize that they're not being irresponsible. Their brain is organized different. And you just need to help them, number one, when they're being creative, by leaving them alone, getting rid of distractions. But when they need to be out of that state, do things to step in and help them snap out of it so that they can get back into the left brain mode where time once again matters, sequences matter, tasks matter, and oftentimes they'll need help organizing. I struggle with organization, and when I'm doing right brain things especially. In some of my jobs in my past, I wasn't being paid to be right brain. I was paid to do left brain tasks, and I had no problems doing that. And when I was doing those kinds of tasks, organization was not a problem for me. But when I'm doing tasks like I do now, that are mostly right brain, it's very difficult for me to stay organized and to stay uncluttered, even in my mind. So I felt like the second video explaining more of the ramifications of the right and left brain, I thought that was justified just because I'd kind of already let the cat out of the bag and felt like that needed some completion, some closure. And if I think of any really interesting illustrations, we might have a third video on the right and left brain. But I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for visiting my studio, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.